Snack fail. Awesome.
Aren't we fun?
Today we're discussing, let's try that again. LG.
Yeah, okay, action.
Yeah, what episode is this? 6.
It's a good thing we're professionals here.
For God's sake. Okay.
What are you laughing at?
Wow. What's that? 1, 2, 3. That was the best one ever. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Nights at the Round Table. There's only 2 of us this week, but that doesn't mean it's going to be any more boring because we are discussing the fantastic book, The Phantom Tollbooth, which is just about one of the best books ever written. If you haven't read it yet, you're deprived and should remedy that immediately.
Get yourself to a bookstore.
Or a library.
Or a library.
Or
your friend's house.
Or your friend's house. We have a copy we might be willing to loan out if you can pry our cold dead hands from it.
It's slightly tattered.
The basic premise of this book is there's a boy called Milo who is always bored with his life. Everywhere he goes, everything he does, he doesn't really care about much. It's just there's nothing exciting ever happens. And then one day he gets home from school and there's a mysterious package in his bedroom, a giant box, and he unwraps it and it's a toy toll booth. And he doesn't think that this is going to be any more exciting than anything else that ever happens to him, so he sets it up and he drives his little car through it and thinks that this is going to be such a dull day if this isn't an interesting game. And he comes through on the other side in the land of expectations, where he meets many colorful characters and has wonderful adventures and goes on a quest to rescue the princesses Rhyme and Reason.
And in the meanwhile, there are a million excellent puns.
It is the funniest book in history. So, starting after that build-up with general impressions of the book. Go, Karin.
Well, my general impression of the book when I first read it was it was hilarious, it was clever, and it took a plot that I was already getting kind of bored of. There's a child, they're bored with their life, and they go off and have fantastical adventures somewhere, and made it really interesting by being hilarious and clever. My impression of it this time was, well, this is actually the book that set me up to be a Doctor Who fan. There's this ordinary person, a mysterious box appears in their life. They go into they do something with the box and have fantastical adventures with colourful characters and strange time-bending things. And they travel with a creature that has something to do with time. Milo gets a companion who is a watchdog, which is actually a dog with a giant alarm clock for a body. His name is Tok. He's awesome. Yeah, so that was my impression this time.
Wow, I don't know how to respond to that. I never ever considered that, but yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
It's true.
But yes, what you were saying about how it does take that conventional child goes on a quest to save the world plot, and it makes it's such an original book. I've never read anything like it, and I'm sure I never will, because it's so wildly creative that it just makes for such good reading. And the puns are just so, there are puns that are just there for a laugh, like when they're in Dictionopolis and they're having a feast and the Count or the Duke or somebody offers Milo a synonym bun. That's just
call
funny.
cinnamon buns that.
Yeah, exactly. But there are plenty of places and plenty of things that are really just, manifestations of life lessons.
Like the island of conclusions, which you get to by jumping.
And once you've jumped to conclusions, you can't jump back. Yeah. You have to find another way off the island.
You have to swim.
It's things like that, and it's things like the doldrums, when you're not really paying attention to where you're going and you're just kind of meandering through life. You get lost in this area called the doldrums, full of what are the things that live there?
Lethargarians.
Lethargarians.
Or Lethargarians, I don't really know how to pronounce it.
Where everything's just kind of boring and lackluster.
And blah.
And gray.
Yes.
It's gray. There's no color in that part. And, I had another example and I lost it, but I'll come back to it.
Just speaking of the doldrums though, one of the best, just another excellent pun is when Milo's in the doldrums the watchdog comes charging along to make sure nobody's wasting time. He comes up to Milo and asks what he's doing. Milo says, "I'm just killing a bit of time," and the watchdog freaks out at him.
His alarm starts going off. It's fantastic. It's bad enough wasting time without killing it. Yeah. So, but really, I mean, as you go through the book, and Milo, I mean, the way you get out of the doldrums is you have to think. You have to actually think about what you're doing and think about things that are interesting, and that gets your mind and body, and in Milo's case, his car, going again so he can escape the doldrums. And it just, there are all those little things like that kind of build up to the one big lesson of the book, which is there's always something to do, and there's always...
And to discover.
And you should always be paying attention to what's around you, because even the smallest thing has something interesting about it that you can learn and get excited about.
Like a synonym bun.
Like a synonym bun.
And all the villains of the book, the demons that Milo and Tok and the Humbug meet when they're going off on their quest to rescue the princesses of rhyme and reason. The demons are all things, manifestations of boredom, essentially. There's the senses taker who takes down all your information and with it your actual senses. There's the terrible trivium who makes you do very dull, very repetitive tasks.
Like emptying a well with an eyedropper, just because. Yeah. But also the demons live in the mountains of ignorance.
Yes.
So, if you're in there, you're in big trouble. And the other, I don't know if you read the foreword. Maurice Sendak wrote the foreword to this, which is the 35th anniversary edition, happens to be the copy that we have. And
it's older than that now.
It's older than that now. It was written in 62, I want to say.
Check.
Something like that.
60, text copyright 61.
61, I was close. Same year that To Kill a Mockingbird was made into a movie.
Oh yeah.
It's
a good year.
It's an excellent year. I actually have Sonia's notes here, and she copied down a quote from the foreword by Maurice Sendak, or I think it's called The Appreciation by Maurice Sendak. It just says, "The book treats in fantastical terms the dread problems of excessive specialization, lack of communication, conformity, cupidity, and all the darning ills of our time." Sorry, her writing is not so great. "Jester's allegorical monsters have all become too real. Or have become all too real," which is very accurate. The demons are scary in a lot of ways.
Yes, because how much time have we all spent filling out bloody paperwork?
And I think when you read it when you're little, the demons are scary because they're keeping the princesses prisoner up there, and they're stopping Milo and Tok and the Humbug from rescuing them.
And they're quite scary looking. The terrible trivium has no face.
Which is one of the most terrifying ways a demon can look, really. But I think it still is a fantastic read when you grow up a bit, because then you can appreciate all the various levels that this book has. And it's excellent. What was one of your favorite parts?
Everything. No, I am a word person, so I really loved the scenes in Dictionopolis, ruled by King Azaz, the Emperor of Words?
Oh, he's got a billion
He's
titles.
got a billion titles, and they're all to do with verbosity. And there's a word market where they sell words that grow on trees, because money doesn't grow on trees, so obviously something had to, and why not words? And they're a half bakery, which is where half-baked ideas come from.
Yeah.
It's just really wonderful. It also just, despite being obviously such an unreal type of place, it evokes the same feeling that you'd get in a real market where you're buying things that other than words. So it's just a solid set of scenes in general.
And the world is very well imagined as well.
Is.
I think all the various characters, they all have, they all make so much sense in a really bizarre way.
Well, it's like dream sense. It's a bit like Alice in Wonderland that way.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. One of my favorite parts is in Dictionopolis when Milo gets thrown in prison, and he's very nervous because the witch is down there. But the witch turns out not to be the witch, W-I-T-C-H, but the W-H-I-C-H. She had been in charge of deciding which words were going to be sold at the market. Unfortunately, her story is a little sad because she grew selfish and wanted more words for herself, which meant less and less words were being bought in the market. She kept coming up with slogans about how, all the, what are they? I just know the last one said silence is golden, and when people were reading this advertising saying silence is golden, they all just stopped buying words altogether, and the economy almost completely collapsed.
Yeah, she went from an ill-chosen word is the fool's messenger to speak fitly or be silent wisely to silence is golden.
Exactly. This is the sad story of faintly macabre, the not-so-wicked witch. But she also tells Milo the whole story of what happened between King Azaz and his brother, the mathematician, and how they kind of split the land into Dictionopolis and Digitopolis, because Azaz was always thinking that words were more valuable than numbers, and the mathematician was thinking the opposite. So they asked the princesses, Rhyme and Reason, to decide once and for all which is more valuable. And the princesses thought about it, and eventually they came back with the decree that words and numbers are of equal value, for in the cloak of knowledge, one is warp and the other is woof. And that also taught me a lot about weaving, but more importantly, that's one quote that has stuck with me through the whole, ever since I first read this book when I was 8 or 9 or something like that.
Yep, that and the story follows on to say that despite the wars between the two brothers, their kingdoms have continued to prosper, but the old city of wisdom has fallen into great disrepair, which is a nice kind of highlight of the difference between knowledge and wisdom. That you can accumulate all the knowledge you want, but if you're going to not let your ego get in the way
of continued learning,
then wisdom will not happen.
Exactly. And at the end of the book, I think when Rhyme and Reason come back and everything's united, then wisdom, the city of wisdom, starts flourishing again, which is quite wonderful in a lot of ways. So let's just go through the rest of Sonia's list here for the rest of the things she likes. One thing she wrote down was the description of the Tollbooth package when it first arrived in Milo's room, which was, for its size, and it was larger than almost any other big package of smaller dimension that he'd ever seen. I'm having trouble reading it now, but it was so much more complicated when I was little. It took me ages to figure out what that meant, and I'm still not entirely clear. But it's just, the way with words. Also, when he first drives through the toll booth, it's a beautiful country, and there's the sign saying, "Welcome to Expectations," and the weatherman. There's a little welcome booth, and this man comes out saying, "Welcome to the land of expectations, the land of expectations, the land of expectations." And it's very excitable. And again, like with the witch, he's not the weatherman, W-E-A-T-H-E-R, he's the weatherman, W-H-E-T-H-E-R.
And he tells...
Because as he
determines whether there's going to be weather that day or not.
Yes.
Rather than what kind it's going to be.
He likes to say it's more important to know whether there will be weather than what the weather will be. Also, she wrote down about the watchdog, who's just fantastic.
Yep.
And the twin lessons about how time is our most valuable possession, and to think about how much could be accomplished with just a little thought.
Mm-hmm.
Getting out of the doldrums.
Absolutely. Someone should mention the humbug. Okay.
Well, I was just getting to that, and how he comes in with the big claim of balderdash. How about you say a few words about the humbug?
Well, I've always appreciated the humbug, just because of all the of our sort of three heroes, there's Milo, Toff the watchdog, and the humbug, who appears in Dictionopolis and has a fight with a spelling bee.
Oh, the spelling bee, yes.
Yes. He's a very ridiculous character. He's very proud of Humbug History, and
history is full of humbugs.
Humbugs have been all over the world. They sailed with Columbus. They crossed the Delaware with Washington. They did all sorts of wonderful things, and it's probably true. It's almost definitely true.
To hear him say it.
Yes, his boasting. It just needs to be read to be believed. But I think my favourite humbug moment is when they're getting off the island of Conclusions. They have to swim off, and Milo and Tonk swim, and they just sort of grin and bear it. And they're soaking wet by the end. The humbug complains vociferously the whole way and is completely dry. And I've tried that system, that general way of thinking before, where the more you complain about something, the less you actually feel it. And sometimes it works. Try it the next really cold day you have, and where it's snowing and horrible, and you complain all the time about how it's snowing and horrible, and then you get to school or work or wherever, and you don't actually feel that cold.
That might be Tuesday, I think, based on what I saw.
Try that on Tuesday.
Yes, and then she wrote down that too. You can swim all day in the sea of knowledge and come out completely dry as long as you ignore it.
Yep.
Words, it's wrong to use too few, but it was often far worse to use too many, so Tolkien, take notes.
I like his words.
Short Shrift, the little angry police officer who doesn't ever really listen. He's a very cranky little man. Oh yes, this was also a couple of my favorite parts of the book again. Also in Dictionopolis, the chariot, where it's a horseless carriage, and Milo gets in with all these dukes and counts and people, and there are no horses. How does it go? And the duke says, quiet, because it goes without saying. And as soon as everybody stops talking, it starts going. And the other one was, Milo's asked to make a speech at the king's banquet, and he starts off as, Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, and then he's cut off and told to move on. And as it goes around the table, everybody makes a speech, and most people are saying like, steak or strawberry shortcake or something like this. And then that's what they get served, and Milo learned that he had to eat his words.
Yep.
Which was very unfortunate. But I mean, these are just, it's kind of like Dictionopolis and Digitopolis and the Mountains of Confusion are kind of the big moments that stand out, but there are all these little things like Alec in the forest at Point of View, who he starts with his head at the height it's going to be for his whole life, and his legs grow downwards. Now he has the same perspective his whole life. And he thinks that growing up with your perspective changing all the time must be terribly confusing. There's the 0.58.
Yes, that was the bit that taught me about averages and then confused me completely, because Milo was going up these stairs. What was it? Going to infinity?
Yes, or something like that. I don't remember.
Somewhere near Dictionopolis. Anyway, so he's going up these infinite stairs, and he meets this half a boy, and gets into conversation with him, and eventually asks why he's only half a person. And the boy says, well, the average family has 2.58 children, and as you can see, I'm the 0.58. And Milo's very confused. He says, but averages aren't real, they're only imaginary. And they have a little discussion about how averages are real, but not really literally real. And when I was a child, that confused me. Nowadays, it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the other part I loved was Milo conducting the sunrise.
Yes.
There's this, and it really is one of those things. I mean, I don't get up to watch the sunrise very often, but it is such a beautiful thing to sit and watch the sky changing all these colors. And there's one point, I think it's also in the forest at Point of View, or near there anyway, when Milo finds this conductor with his orchestra, and they're the ones who play the sunrise. So, it's like the piccolos and flutes are kind of the lighter blues and or greens and pinks, and then the deeper colors that come in. It's just a very, very lovely image.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, final review and stars.
Well, okay, I guess that there's not much more I have to add, just that I would recommend this to anyone of any age, preferably like 6 and up, because I don't reckon a 5-year-old would really get many of the subtleties of it, but you never know, there are clever 5-year-olds out there, so.
You were one of them.
Yeah, that is true. But I'd give it 5 stars, because it is practically perfect in every way.
Aww, Mary Poppins book. I would give it 5 stars as well, just for the sheer creativity of it. It still blows my mind, even though I've been reading it for like 15, 20 years now. It's just, and it really is, it's a great book for all ages. I think it's the perfect book for parents to read with their kids, because it's one of those ones that'll keep everybody entertained.
Yeah.
Yes, would you like to draw a book for next week? Or for next?
Such responsibility must fall to me.
Yes. Get on it.
That wasn't good.
Make it a good one.
Dune by Frank Herbert.
Oh, Sonia's going to be thrilled.
Okay, that's good.
So there we go. That's going to be the next one.
Okay.
2 weeks from today.
Thank you.
My hands are all sticky with sugar. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. I don't know what movie we're discussing because I wasn't.
Alien.
Which?
Alien.
Alien. I thought you said Hitman. I was like, that doesn't. Alien. That's going to be fun. That's going to be a fun conversation. Okay, we'll see you then.